We've got a very participatory audience this morning, which is good because I'm going to open with a question, so please do be brave, don't be shy. What is the first thing you did this morning? So when you woke up this morning, maybe in your own room, maybe in a hotel bedroom somewhere, what is the first thing you did after that moment in which you open your eyes? Who wants to? Turn off the alarm clock. Is that what you said, sir? You were on the phone. Turn off the alarm clock on the phone. Absolutely. Anything else? Anyone else? Maybe someone didn't need an alarm clock to wake up. Maybe you're one of these people that just springs awake in the morning.
Go to the bathroom.
Go to the bathroom. Okay. Thank you for the openness. What do most of us do? Well, 70% of us, we use our smartphone as soon as we wake up. When we get up in the morning, maybe we turn the alarm clock off, maybe we check the news, maybe we check social media, but we are very much habitually attached to this device, aren't we? A couple of other stats, we lift these devices up on average 2,600 times per day. Can you believe that? 2,600 times. If you're a heavy user, probably like me, I hate to admit it, it's probably closer to 5,000 times per day. 78% of Americans, I don't think Americans are unique in this respect, but 78% of Americans have reported feeling uneasy leaving their phone at home. Have you ever seen a teenage girl leave the house and suddenly as she crosses the threshold realise, I've left my phone? And there is no way she's going any further without having that phone. Now that's not just restricted to teenage girls. Us adults are exactly the same. We feel very uneasy going anywhere without our phones. Last stat just to share with you today, over half of the internet traffic, almost 2/3 of the internet traffic is generated from our mobile phones. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so attached to these things, aren't we? They are a crucial part of our life. They're the first thing we do when we wake up in the morning in many cases. And it's something that we're attached to over the course of the day, picking up multiple times, literally thousands of times per day. Now, why is this? Why are we so attached to them? Part of this is because they almost feel like they're an extension of ourselves. We can't leave the home without them. But part of the reason is that for better or for worse, our phones do make things simpler for us. Think how much easier our lives are today compared with 20 years ago because we all own and use smartphones every day. So today, when you checked in for the conference, maybe your ticket, maybe that was part of your mobile wallet. Maybe you had that on your phone. When I flew here last night from San Francisco, I went through that whole airport experience, and my boarding pass is on my phone. I don't need anything printed, it's all integrated with my TSA pre-check. Even now, some flights I take, and you've probably recognised this as well, you don't actually need to show your passport, you just have facial recognition. Because I'm a foreigner living in Canada, I have to go through border control a lot and get questioned by the border guards. And often now when I walk up, they say, that's fine, Mr. Combe, on you go. I don't even hand over my passport. So our phones have made things really effortless. When I was in San Francisco yesterday, I used for the first time a Waymo. I'm kind of embarrassed it's taken so long for me to kind of get with the program. Just by show of hands, who's used a Waymo or some other form of like, aren't they just the best things ever? Like, when Uber came along, we all thought, wow, this is amazing. You know, so much friction out of that journey has been taken out. And then all of a sudden, you use a Waymo and you're like, hang on, this has just gotten even better. There's like even less friction, and I cannot wait until we have Waymos in my hometown of Vancouver. How else have phones made our life effortless? Well, navigation, we just don't think about this anymore. So I remember a long time ago, in fact, it was 2012, I cycled from the south of England to the north of Scotland with a friend of mine because I was much younger and I didn't have children, so that's the kind of stuff you can do. when you're at that stage in life. Now, how did we do it? We used this thing called a map to navigate our way. Now, if I were to do the same today, A, it would take me a lot longer, but B, I would have no use or no need for a map. I literally bought a big atlas from the gas station and I cut all the pages out that I needed and I kind of sellotaped that to the top of my my bag on my bike. But navigation now, it's just so intuitive. We go to our phones. In fact, some of us, when we travel around, we don't even really think about where's my hotel, where's the conference centre. We just pull up our phone, click, oh, how far it is, will I walk, will I get a Waymo, Uber, will I get an e-bike? And so we're relying on these things for navigation as well. So phones make our lives a lot simpler, a lot easier. Now I realise I'm stood here in LA, I'm stood in the city that is going to host the Olympics, that is going to host the World Cup. And these are hugely exciting things, but I know what you're all really excited about is to learn more about parking. And in particular, parking payments. That's probably what you feel most passionate about, like me, as we think about all these great things that are going to happen in LA. So please just bear with me as I walk you through the evolution very quickly on the evolution of parking payments, how that has changed, but more importantly, where we're going in the future, because the best predictor of the future is the past. And so parking started the coin era. Do you remember that? When you would have the coins and you would be filling the meter full of quarters and you'd be running back to the meter to stuff it full of more quarters when you realised you were running out of time. And what was really interesting in the industry in which I'm in is that COVID did an amazing thing for these parking meters, because all of a sudden folks weren't so happy about touching the big metal box in the street that everyone else is touching. We got an awful lot less comfortable with that after COVID. And so some point kind of in this journey, we went from the coin era. We also had the kind of pre-app era where you would have an IVR. So do you remember when you used to phone up and you would punch in your location code and you would put in, this is my license plate, and you would say your license plate. And if you're Scottish and you live in North America, that's really difficult to do. So fast forward a bit more, what happened next? Well, there was the app evolution, of course. And so mobile apps came to the market, a high level of convenience here, being able to extend for anywhere, getting those notifications before your parking is about to run out. And so businesses like the one that I lead, we do millions of transactions a day. We have millions of users all across the globe who do this, and it's become a new norm. Now, what's really interesting though is this doesn't stop here. As with any technology, it continues to evolve. So what's one example, and in the limited time that we have today, I'll talk about one example of where this is evolving. Well, we were approached by a car sharing company in Germany, and they said, hey, the parking experience when you're using a car share is full of friction. It's really horrible. You might be a visitor to this city, you might not even be from that country, and so the whole parking experience is really horrible. And they said, can you build us a completely frictionless parking experience? Because all these vehicles in this fleet, they are all connected, and therefore there's no reason why we can't start a parking session, stop a parking session, and figure out all the rights and rates and all those kind of things without the driver even knowing it. So that's what we did. That's what we went ahead and built. So now when you use this car sharing offering in Germany, you get in the car, you go on your journey, you park the car, you maybe go to the cinema, you go to the shops, you do whatever you're going to do, you get in the car, you drive away. That parking session, you don't even do anything. There's something going on in the background. It's all happening in the background, powered by our platform through a truly frictionless experience. And the reason that I think this is quite profound for us as a company that's built a large global business based on doing lots of transactions through the mobile phone is actually this is now a move to taking the phone out of the equation. Because if the future is frictionless, and if part of the reason we love these devices so much is because they make our lives so much easier in so many ways, what's actually happening in some areas is no sooner have they made our lives easier, no sooner have we had the situation that we no longer need to fill the meter full of quarters because we use an app, that actually this in some cases will become obsolete. And that's the kind of paradoxical thing about technology sometimes. It makes itself redundant, that it disappears into the background. And so when we think about the way that mobility is changing, we can see that there's these kind of blurring of boundaries, and we can see that as these various mobility services are joining up together, whether it's me getting my Waymo or this car share that I mentioned, that all of a sudden the car sharing, the parking, all of these things are kind of merging and joining together. And that's going to keep on happening, and technology is moving at such a pace that I don't see any sign of it slowing down at any point in the future. So in some ways, as it relates to parking, because as I said, I know really, yes, the Olympics is exciting, yes, the World Cup is cool, but really what we all want to know more about is parking. What does the future of parking look like? Well, a big part of what we believe that looks like is actually completely touchless. Touchless kind of resets the standard of what a frictionless experience is like. Just in the same way that we spent all those years using the Ubers, and before that we even used taxis. And my kids don't actually understand what a taxi in the kind of traditional sense involves. They have no notion that you would phone someone up and give them the address and explain where it was. They just, for them, taxi and Uber are synonymous with each other. So just as quickly as we saw that transformation, we can see, the Waymos are here, and it's very much a part of, if you want to move around in San Francisco, that is the number one way to do it. And so this notion of touchless, frictionless is really setting the standard, and we will see that continue to pervade in parking. So finally, I'd love to take any questions. We see that the car is becoming, in this particular case, the car is becoming the wallet, and the phone is the initiator of the transaction without anyone having to even pick it up. So if the 2,600 times a day you lift this thing, then one less of them will be because of parking. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Happy to take any questions in the final minute that we have.
Johnny, I do have a question. So what is the touchless solution? Are you creating the app and it's directly in the vehicle itself, in the operating system of the vehicle?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So how does that work in practice? Well, in this particular case, because we're dealing with a fleet of connected vehicles, then we can integrate into that fleet because they're all connected. So it doesn't rely on us deploying any hardware into the vehicle. In this case, it doesn't even rely on us integrating with the OEM of the vehicle, but we've got a connected platform that we can hook into there. Yes? What's the oldest model of car that should work in? Really good question. So I think there are a few variables there. So one is it does it have some kind of retrofitted connectivity fitted to it, is number one, in which case it could be as old as you like. Secondly, generally I would say cars in the last kind of probably 6 years are all coming out of the factory connected. And thirdly, I would say, not that I think there's a huge runway in this, but because of the unit cost of GPS technology now, if you wanted to put a dongle in the car, that's like low single digit euros or dollars to do that. Yes, question on that.
Because of concerns over privacy, are people able to opt out from this kind of technology?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think just maybe as a more general point, as we move to this kind of more frictionless experience, we can see there are privacy concerns. Going back to my airport example, when I walked up to the border guard at Vancouver Airport and he didn't even want to see my passport, part of me was kind of like, I'm not sure how I feel about that. So, certainly in this case, my observation would be when we look in very general terms, continental Europe, the privacy laws are generally stricter. So for sure, in this particular case, users have got the ability to opt out. There's also the element of what level of personal information, personal data is going to be shared. When it comes to a parking transaction, actually we don't need to know who the driver is, so there's no kind of form of personal data exchange there. So yeah, it's I think a really interesting trend, interesting to observe as we see technology advancing at a pace where regulation will have to try and catch up, and the two are kind of doing this. Very good question. I think one more question? Okay.
Can this technology be transferred to other types of vehicle-related payments, like fuel payments, EV charging, things of that nature?
That's a really great question, and the answer is absolutely yes, because what we love as PayByPhone as a payments business, we process payments of all different kinds. We have 50,000 EV locations in the UK where we process payments. We can process fuel payments, we can process parking payments, and what we really get excited about is making payments as simple and as effortless as possible for the user. So yes, absolutely.